All right, good evening to you listeners and those watching live on Facebook. Okay, today is Monday. Jehovah. Sandra Mano with this one brand new track. All right, as usual, you know, it's election time, decision time here in the Netherlands. Verkiezing. I think people have started voting already because today is a special day for old people. Old people, eh? Okay, everybody. Okay, it's 3 days election now. All right, from today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, that is the climax. All right, tonight in the studio, as you know, we have been doing this for the past 2 weeks. We have various political parties here in the Netherlands live in the studio. As usual, we have here Mr. Sebastiaan. Mr. Sebastiaan. All right, Mr. Sebastiaan van den Hout. That shows you he's pure, 100%. And that is Sebastiaan. When you see the fun and then Hout. All right, he's live here in the studio. Fractiemedewerker financier, SP. He represents SP, Socialist Party. When I say it, I would say translation in English. Okay, he's live here in the studio. Mr. Gambrah is here. So without wasting much time, I will just go over to them so that they will tell us. Mr. Sebastiaan will tell us the reason. Of course, he's here for the election, but at least there's a need to know more about exactly what his party is all about. All right, Mr. Gambrah is here, and Mr. Gambrah will do the rest. Mr. Gambrah, good evening.
Good evening, Kofi.
I hope all is well.
All is well by His grace. All is well.
Okay,
yeah. And we thank you also for giving us the opportunity to be here with you and also to discuss. Therefore, Imamunya Maju, Sabebio, within the Gambrah said Kofi Kain, and your Socialist Party, or in Tema, no Mudi Komo. But Ansana, even you Mudi Komo, the purpose in Tia saying, say, Obia try say, about Tuaba. Then the main purpose, participation democracy. So piano participating in democratic system. So what you want to say that opportunity, or Dutch passport, and now a citizen, you have to participate. You have to go out to the polling station and vote. Don't just waste your vote. Your vote counts. In any part, we're taking part in the democratic process. Democratic process, all party need so sorry now call police station, now call vote. And please, wherever you are, from crawling into Den Haag, maybe you have to go out there. It's or Holland, I say. It's maybe a shower segment or cardinal, and also on 20 or voting cardinal or honor. It's pick a voting card, say the coffee card is here, and then you started talking. First, they can say, old people, any people are weak, and number 2, and any Echina. That's 15th and 16th. But they say there, according to Dutch law, if you police station in India, or Bia Timiko police station, or Bia Timiko police station, and any Echina. And so you're willing to be so called and there. It's up to 9 o'clock. Echina, and a Wednesday, it's 3 days, and then the election. I think the Bia Messi. Unless you will say, what do you mean to now?
Also, the curfew is not working today and tomorrow up to Wednesday because you have to elaborate on that. People must know because of the curfew. It's up to 9.
9 o'clock.
Yeah, so people must know about it. Otherwise,
the curfew is still there.
But the polls, as we said, is open till 9. And someone, you can't just go there 9 o'clock. Maybe someone will have to go to work. So that one must be explained for some people.
Let me tell you what I've experienced the last weeks concerning the curfew. Aberdeen close at 9:45.
Yeah.
And sometimes 9 o'clock are people in Aberdeen. And then they will just leave. Police are not crazy. We have good police men and women in this country. 15 minutes after 9 o'clock, they don't rush to arrest people. They don't do that. So people don't need to be afraid. Say, if you go out there to vote 9 or 5 minutes to 9 and you're going home from your house or from the police station to your house, it takes about 15 minutes. And the police are not going to harass you. So please don't get scared of the curfew. Even though the curfew is still there, it's 9 o'clock. But you have to still, the police station are open up to 9 o'clock. You see, but that doesn't mean that you have to go late. Try and go earlier and vote and go home. Okay, we are going to start with Mr. Sebastiaan van den Hout. And so please listen to him and decide who you have to vote for. But please go out there and vote. Sebastiaan, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for letting me be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you here. I think we have been meeting each other a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Anytime that there's a election, I think we have been meeting in the community center to talk about politics. And now you're on the list. So please tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Sebastiaan van den Hout. I'm on list 6 from the Socialist Party, and I'm number 36 on the list. Before I became a socialist, I used to be a police officer. So I agree completely that they won't in the first 5 minutes after 9 arrest you. But it is important to stick to the curfew. So try to vote on time. And exactly your point, voting is so important. Every vote counts, and especially in this time when big changes are needed, it's very important that everybody votes. And yeah, exactly that police work is what got me into politics, because on the street you see how much poverty there is, how much difficulty people have getting normal housing, good incomes, healthcare, and all those problems I felt were unacceptable, and I wasn't solving enough. So that's why I went into politics, because we don't need to have those problems in this world. There is enough money. There is enough capabilities. We can solve all the problems, but it's just a political choice. And that's also why I want the Socialist Party to be so large. I want to ask everybody to vote for it, because we can solve them. We can have a system that is honest and fair for everybody, where we can fight for equality for all, and where we can have good housing, have a fair income for the work you do, and that the money doesn't just go to the top. And where we can have healthcare, where you don't have to be afraid for large costs, which will make you stay away, but a healthcare that's there for you in a time that's the most difficult for you in your life, for example. When you have some bad disease, you don't want to be thinking about money. You don't want your family thinking about money. You just need to be there for each other. And so that's why we want to put people central in our society, and not money.
Good. Thank you for your nice introduction, policeman. You don't have to say it always when you go to certain places. Why did you stop? Because you want to become a politician, then you stop being a policeman, or you're still a policeman?
No.
You stopped.
Yes, I stopped. So that's exactly the story that that it's over a period of I did it for 5 years, and over the last 2 years, I more and more got to thinking okay, but and the police does important work. So I'm very proud of a lot of the work they do. Also, there are some things that need to improve, but well, you know that, I think, and we should improve them. But there's also people are in difficulty, people are being arrested. The police helps them, and I loved that part of the job, helping people. But I also noticed that I was giving like people speeding tickets, for example. And then I thought like, okay, well, you speed it, so it's necessary. But on the other hand, I saw bankers getting away with it. They, like the bankers from the big banks,
Yeah.
they made a lot of money, millions and billions. And meanwhile, they gambled with our money, our pension money, our savings.
Yeah.
And when those got lost, we even had to pay even more tax money to save them, to bail out the banks, to help the bankers, and they could keep their money. And none of them went to jail, none of them got fined, or they had like small fines, which didn't compare to the amount of money they made. And that made me think like, okay, I can help on a small scale, but I want to help on a bigger scale, because this needs to change. We need to have a system that's fair for everybody, and not just fair for the people on the top. That we kind of have socialism for the people on the top, because every time they need help, they get help, and that's unfair.
Okay, but most of the time, I don't know why your party is not in government, but then most of the time, many people think that in Holland is a socialist country. People think like that. Holland is a socialist country because everything is like arranged and it's for the lower people, but it's not like that. So,
No, not like that at all. Yeah, we do have socialist elements. So I'm also very proud of what socialists have accomplished in the past. For example, the most simple example is voting rights. In 1917, we got voting rights. In 1990, universal voting. But that came there because of the fighting of normal people, fighting for their rights. And also the 8-hour workday, the weekend free, but also healthcare rights and pensions for elderly people. All those rights are socialists. So all those things, people don't think about that, but those nice things are socialist policies.
Okay.
But they got there to struggle. So it's not like we have a state that just gives it to you. It is there because people fought for it and forced the state to give it to them. And that's also what I want to tell people. That's why you need to vote, but also hopefully join a party and fight for your rights. Because every day companies are trying to take them away from you little by little. They want to lower your salary, lower your pensions, or your benefits, and you need to stay on top of that. So yeah, so is the Netherlands a socialist country? We have elements of that, but it's only there because we fight for it.
How long does Socialist Party exist?
It has existed for since 1947. So we're coming onto our 50th anniversary. Yeah, but we've only been in parliament for since 1994, and that's because unlike all the other parties in the Netherlands, we started local. So we started in local cities where we came together with people and struggled for rights there. And then all those little local parties combined and said, okay, we need to go into the national parliament, where hopefully we can also change the laws for the whole country and make the whole country better and not just one city. And so now we do both. So we fight as well in cities as in the national parliament.
I see that your leader is a lady.
Correct.
In Netherlands, there hasn't never been a lady leader. Do you think that Netherlands is ready for a lady prime minister?
I'm sure we are. I am ready for a female leader, but I also think this discussion it doesn't really need to happen. I think people are always thinking about, okay, something new, how will it work? But when we have a female leader, everybody will see, okay, it's just the same. Yeah, because there's not that kind of a difference between man and woman.
Yeah, yeah. That one you are right. It's not necessary to talk about. Let's go to your policies on education.
Yeah, perfect.
Because now we are having so much problem with education now because of Corona and other things. So I don't know what plans is your party having for the coming 4 years if you're in government? What are your party's policies on education?
Yes, well, education is so important. It's like the basis from where you can build your life. It's also a way for people to develop their talents, because we all have talents, whether it be like in theory, you want to be a researcher or something like that, but also practical talents. You also need to develop those. For example, if you're a good woodworker or builder or that kind of a job. And for all those things, education is the building block. It is what our society uses to become better than it was before. And that's, you see right now, people always say, okay, Corona made it difficult for education, but there's a structural problem, because for the past 10, 20 years, the governments have been cutting back on education spending, and that has made the classes larger, which makes teachers overburdened. So teachers overburdened, they can't give children the attention they need. And you see that children are suffering. I think under the age of 15, something like 15 to 20% of children are, in Dutch we say laaggeletterd. So that's, they have difficulty reading and difficulty understanding text. But that shouldn't be acceptable, because that makes your life so much more difficult. If you get letters from the government, for example, oh, you need to pay this or that tax.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what it says, yeah, that makes your life really difficult. And it also makes it difficult to follow further education. So that's why we think that the state needs to work towards making education free in the end. And right now make it way more cheap. And make sure that there's a system where we have people with lower incomes, we support them. For example, we give them free books and free education, but also free public transport, because you also see how important that is, because not everybody lives near a school or university. And if your mother or your father can't drive you there, you need a bus or another form to get there. And we need to support that as well. And well, I could talk for hours about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The free transport is already there. They get OV.
Yeah, but they want to cut. They want to cut it back. Yeah, and make that a loan. So
that's the point I want to ask.
Yeah.
University students, according to the government, they have to pay back when they get loans to study.
Yeah.
What is the party saying about this paying back of loans to students or study financier, or what's the party's idea on that? Are you going to let the student pay or not?
Yeah, so they call it the loan system, and we call it the debt system, because from the very first day that people came with this idea in Parliament, we have been opposing it and fighting it as one of the only parties, because we think it's crazy to saddle students with debt, and because not only do you make studying something for rich kids, which is fine if they study, but we want everybody to be able to study. And you also see right now that people from poorer families say, okay, I'm not going to go to university or to higher education, even though I could be able to, I don't want to, because it will give me too much debt. And that is unacceptable for us, because everybody should have equal opportunities to develop themselves. So we say we need to invest a lot of money in education, but also we need to compensate, clear these debts that have been accrued, these debts that people have gotten from the loan system these past years.
No, the question you haven't asked something.
Yeah.
Are you going to?
We're going to erase the debt.
You're going to erase the debt?
Erase it, yes. We have.
Because when you finish university, all the costs that you have made, 30,000, 40,000, 45,000, you don't need to pay.
Yeah, we have made 4.2 billion euros available to erase the debt of all the students who now have debt.
Okay.
Under the system, and going forward, if we become empowered, we want to have no one have debt for studying.
Okay, you keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, perfect.
You keep that in mind. And my next question will be on healthcare.
Yeah.
Healthcare connected to business. Now the corona has damaged a lot of businesses. Compensation to businesses. how's the policy of your party? First, the healthcare.
First, healthcare.
Healthcare. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's my favorite topic.
Because now they are saying that we don't need to take a medicine. I just received here on the news one of the
AstraZeneca. Yeah.
AstraZeneca.
Yeah.
We don't need to. What's going on?
Well, I have to be honest, I'm not a vaccine expert, but what I read is that AstraZeneca possibly, so be careful, don't, but it might possibly have some negative health effects for some people. So now they are looking to make sure, but don't get in a panic. It might still work, but
because I haven't taken anything.
perfect. But
so the healthcare sector.
Yeah.
What is your policies on that?
Well, we are from all the parties right now who have had our plans looked at by the accounting agency, who looks at the plans, how much money it will cost, how much money you put into it. We put in more money than any other party, even double. So we put in 14.6 billion in the coming period because we believe that healthcare is one of the most important things we can do as a civilized society to look after each other, but also because healthcare has been marketized. And since the second that we came into parliament, we have been fighting against market operations in healthcare. Because commercialization, thank you. Yeah, because sick people are not customers. They are not products which you can use for making money. You know, they are sick people.
Clients.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to help them. We don't need to milk them for money.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. You have we call them healthcare cowboys.
Yeah.
And they make millions of money, millions of euros, by exploiting sick people.
Yeah.
And many sick people also we want to erase the it's called in Dutch eigen risico. So it's the money you pay when you go to the doctor. A part is covered by the healthcare, but up to 385 euros you need to pay yourself.
Yes.
And then many well-off people say, okay, 385 euros, you can pay it and then it's okay. But that's a lot of money for a lot of people.
Yes.
That's maybe your month's rent. That's maybe your month's food supply or 2 months if you're and that is unacceptable to us. That people are now not going to the healthcare institutions because they cannot afford it, and that shouldn't be. That just cannot exist in a society.
So Socialist Party is going to take this bijdrage off.
Erase it to zero.
It's a lot of money. Where are you going to find that money?
Well, that's a good question. First off, the most simple answer is we're going to tax rich people. Because if you see like worldwide, during the Corona crisis alone, so that's about a year, and that's one of the worst economic crises we've known like in mankind, the rich people of this world, the 1%, has earned $360 billion. We can erase poverty in the world with the amount of money they earned during a global health crisis. So, and we're not saying, okay, everybody should be exactly the same, but this is unacceptable, that some people are so well off and other people cannot even afford food or healthcare.
Yeah.
So that's why we say, okay, we put in a millionaire tax. It's not even like if you're well off, you have your small own business, you're fine, we won't touch you. But if you're a millionaire and above, if you're a billionaire, yeah, you got to pay some extra taxes. I think that's only fair.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways we're going to make it possible.
Yeah. That is fine. That's fine. Okay, we connected to the Corona and the business. So many businesses are collapsing. The cake trays and so many rice bureau, what do you call it, the tourism sector, they are collapsing. They have even collapsed. How do you raise them?
So that's a really difficult question, and it doesn't have an easy answer because we do not know when Corona will be over.
It's about money. You know how to get money easily.
Yeah. So that's also what we say, that first off, the amount of support is way too little. So, and we also want, for example, a rent stop, because it's crazy that you still have to pay so much rent for your small business when you cannot use the building. So So you pay the rent, but you cannot use the building. That's for example, but also the government needs to help them more. So we give them more money to help them stay afloat. And there needs to come a solution in the meantime. So that's why we're saying, for example, look at what the options are with negative tests. So you test yourself, and then for 2 or 3 days, for example, you can go to a restaurant when you have proper distance and you do it all safe. Maybe then the businesses again can have a little bit of income and can start thinking about, okay, how can we go on from here? And I think the current moment is not the most important for small businesses, because now they cannot do so much. But we need to look like, okay, when they are opening up, a lot of these small businesses are riddled to their necks in debt. They had to accrue. We need to look at, okay, how can we help them? Do we need to take over those debts? Do we need to say, okay, they're gone? Or how can we help these businesses get a flying start again?
The taxes.
Yeah.
Too much taxes.
Because if we just let them by themselves, they will all collapse. And then the big change will come in, because, for example, McDonald's, if we talk about the restaurant industry, McDonald's has a lot of money. So if all small businesses collapse, they just buy up the property, no problem. So we also want this diversity, We are, in 2016, the Socialist Party won the prize for best small business party. And that's really funny, because people often think like, okay, socialists, they hate businesses, but that's not true. We hate multinational companies. So like Shell and Unilever, we don't even hate them, but it's like they need to pay their fair share of taxes. For example, Shell makes about 20 billion a year, and they paid, in the last 10 years, they paid €0 in taxes in the Netherlands.
Really?
€0, yeah. So
that's free.
Yeah, they are tax free, but the small businesses get taxed to death.
21% or
more. Yeah. So that's absurd. We say everybody should pay a fair share of their taxes. But it's absurd that like the bakery at the end of the street pays more taxes in the Netherlands than one of the largest companies in the world.
That is strange. That's strange.
Yeah.
That's strange. Okay, we're still having a problem with the company. So I think when your party gets into government, you have a good policy. Otherwise, it's going to affect families, because people are being sacked or they lose their jobs.
Yeah.
So how, it's going back to the kids.
Yeah, exactly. But and that's the interesting thing. Small businesses are really part of the community. So if you have a small business, that money goes directly back into the community. Oftentimes, you buy a house in the community, you let your kids go to school there, you buy stuff at the corner store. So small business and people employed there are from the community. So that money also goes back to your community. So that's why small businesses are so important to like cities, villages, and neighborhoods. But large businesses are completely opposite. So you see a large business like Albert Heijn moving into a village, like in the Netherlands somewhere. And then you see all the other businesses going bankrupt, because the bakery and the small supply store, they cannot compete with Albert Heijn. They cannot compete with their prices. And then they go broke. And then that city also like slowly decayed because the people have no jobs, because Albert Heijn employs way less people, and all the profits go away to the central headquarters. Where they also pay little taxes.
There are many complaints also in the families. Once again, families are not having enough to be able to live. If we are poor people in the Netherlands. Today, also, I think this week, somebody called and said there are too many poor people who live below the poverty line in Netherlands. So how is that possible? And what is your party having? Do you have a policy to raise this problem and solve it as well?
Yeah. So that's also a really difficult question, because it has many parts. but that's one of the spear points, as you can imagine, of the Socialist Party, alleviating poverty and fighting inequality. Because it cannot be that like 3 out of 12 children grow up in poverty, that 400,000 children go to school hungry. How can that be? And also, for example, food banks.
Yeah, it's too much these days.
Yeah, but they're really nice that they are there, but it's unacceptable that you have to go to a food bank for food. You know, you should be able to afford it yourself.
Yes.
And that's why we are the party that wants to raise the minimum wage to 14 euro. So that's a 40% increase. And then you might think, okay, 40%, that's a lot. But over the last 30 years, the wage hasn't increased. So it has stagnated. Meanwhile, profits have, of course, grown a lot. And so we say increase the minimum wage, but also a lot of benefits in the Netherlands are coupled to the minimum wage. For example, elderly benefits, but also unemployment benefits and the benefits you get when you cannot work anymore.
Yeah.
Disability benefits. Yeah.
Okay, talking about disability benefit and all this, in the VMO,
VMO? Yeah.
Is it still functioning properly? Well, there are many people who think that they are not getting support.
Yeah.
They need to have from the VMO policy.
Yeah.
Is it still existing, or is it dying out, or how is it?
No, well, that's this is such an important issue. Sorry, I find all the issues important, but we just started a meldpunt, so a place where you can come with your complaints about the UWV. Because they also do parts of this, and so people call us or they mail us and they tell us their stories. And I lost 2 weeks ago, I had a woman call me, and she was from Suriname originally, but she now lives here for like 20 years. Yeah. And she got sick, she got ill. But really badly. So she got chronically ill, she couldn't work anymore, and she just needed help, and she needed income, because she also had a child of 11. What the UFA said to her is like, okay, you can get benefits, but you need to come to our office to get it. And she was like, okay, but I cannot, because she was bedridden. Yeah. And then eventually it came to a point where she had to be carried to the UFA office.
Yeah, why?
In order to get benefits. Well, because it's an absurd system we have designed here in the Netherlands. And that's also what the Socialist Party is one of our spear points, is to get a fair government, a government that puts people first and not spreadsheets. And you've also seen that probably with the toeslagenaffaire, with the tax office that has really destroyed the lives of
many
families, mothers, with single mothers with children, because of their spreadsheets, because they were like, okay, it says here that you are a risk, or you are fraudulent, so we're going to pursue you, we're going to give you more taxes, we're going to give you fines, even though these women were innocent, these families were innocent. And we, as the SP, we had to fight for years to get this story above board, and to get the government, because they kept lying, to get the government to be honest about this. And
so SP who pushed this
against
issues to come out.
Yeah, together with Pieter Omtzigt from the CDA. Yeah, so they were together, and also 2 journalists helped out a lot. Okay. And they had to fight to get all this information above board. But that is the government, which is run by VVD, CDA, ChristenUnie, CU, and D66. And they all say, okay, well, we didn't know, and they pull their hands back. But we say, that's not fair. You know, the report that came out about this is called Unknown Injustice, because it's such a large injustice that we've never seen that before in the Netherlands. Even if, that happened, the leader of that government says, okay, well, I'm electable again. Mark Rutte says, okay, please vote for me again, even though I am responsible for the largest injustice in the history of the Netherlands. Well, or one of the largest, because, well, we've done some really bad things in the past as well, but okay.
Okay, let me tell the public. I'm speaking this evening with Mr. Sebastiaan van den Hout from SP, Socialist Party in the Netherlands. This week, today, tomorrow, and the next day, Wednesday, is election, and we are discussing his party's policies. So people listen to his policies. They are for the lower class people. They want to help the lower class on education, on health, on jobs, and every good things that also ordinary Holland, Dutch people or citizens in the Netherlands need to bridge the gap, between the rich and the poor. That's, I think, what you mostly basing the argument on.
Yeah.
You want to bridge the gap. So it sounds very good. It sounds very good. But my last but not the least question is the migration and development. I don't know if you are into this, but then I know Dutch people, Dutch government is interested in development cooperation. But then we have a lot of migrants, qualified migrants here in the Netherlands, young professional, first generation, second generation, who are capable to be part of this migration and development cooperation. So I don't know what your party have learned so far of experience in this sector to see how to add the migrants being a bridge between the native country, the country of origin, and the Netherlands. How could your party see that, or how do you see that, the migration and development? Yes, my question is, how can your party add the migrants or the diaspora to this process?
I think that's a really good question, and I think it has two sides. So on the one hand, often the debate in the Netherlands is really negative about migrants, which I think is unfair, because migrants, we are a country of migrants. If you look at the history,
Yeah.
you know, who can really say their grandparents or whatever have been here for thousands of years? Yeah, nobody. So where should we draw the line? But even then, you know, migrants still add diversity, other skills. They also help out their own country by migrating, like remittances.
Yeah.
And I think we should emphasize more of the positive side, and also look at how can we take up these migrants, because right now we have a system that you come here and you don't know the language, you don't know the society, and still we expect you to find a language school and to get money and to pay for this school. Well, there's a lot of fraud in that, because it's really easy to abuse these migrants, to cash them out for money. Also with housing, it's really easy to have them pay way too much, because they don't know what is a fair price. So we say the government needs to take a really stronger role in that. They need to make sure these migrants are not abused, that they are not paid way too little wages for their work, or work in dangerous conditions, or have bad housing. We have even seen cases where 50 people live in one apartment building with one toilet and one kitchen. Well, that's absurd. And we need to have a government that takes a stronger role in that, and to make sure it's better regulated and safer for everybody involved. And on the other hand, I think that we also need to look at why people migrate, because many people migrate because they want to. They want to maybe live in another country, study there, work there, and that's all fine. But I also think that we have structural imbalances, so unfair conditions in the world that force people to migrate. A really simple example is that we have riddled the global south. So, for example, Asia, Africa, South America, we have riddled them with debt. Debt from the past, from the 1950s and the 40s, from colonial times, and we say you need to pay this off. But that's ridiculous, to be fair. but also we have unequal trading relations. So we have all the patents here, and we say to those countries, okay, you need to pay the full price for these patents.
Yeah.
And we also buy their resources for cheap, often conflict minerals, which we find fine because then it's cheaper. And then we sell them expensive products back. So that are all factors that make this whole relation unfair, and that force people to migrate here, even though maybe they wanted to stay in their own country.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. So maybe in the near future we have to, because I remember SP, one of SP members that I told you, pushed this agenda a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago. They pushed in the parliament, and then you see how the government can support the diaspora, the migrants who are qualified, who have the knowledge and the capacity to be transferred temporarily to the country of origin to help.
Yeah.
So this process needs to be, I think, pick it up again and see how, because there are so many monies going also in the developing countries that are being used or not well managed. So if people who have been born here, have education here, have the culture here of being strict and being genuinely less or no corrupt, can support this process together with the Netherlands government. You have a lot of young people, have a lot of first generation who have experience in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So I think we need to consider this and help in maybe less people traveling to this side by helping them to have a job. And if they have to come, then they come on special purpose to come and study or to come and do business, but not to be stranded. Yes.
And also we need to, like, right now, if you come here, it takes years and years and years to go through the process.
Yes.
And you have to wait, you're not sure if you can stay here. That's an inhuman system.
Also traveling through the sea, the dangerous.
Very dangerous, yeah.
Yes. So
I also thought that, like, development aid, you mentioned it quickly, that's such an important part, because we say, oh, development aid, we give a lot of money to, I'm just going to say Africa, but that's okay, well, and we give a lot of money to them, but that's not true, because we do give a lot of billions that way, but then the amount of money they miss in taxes, and they miss in fair prices for the resources and for the labor, that makes it, that is many multiples, 10 times, many 10 times.
More than what they
give. Than what they, so it's a neo-colonial system that has been designed, and and we even want to, like, the Netherlands want to get, like, glory for that, like, oh, thank us for helping you. Well, the Netherlands is in the top 5 of tax havens in the world. Thousands of millions of dollars just go through the Netherlands and out of African countries, which are not able to tax them and not able to have their fair revenue stream.
I think we will call you because you have some facts and you are also open for educating the public on issues. This is just the election time. After the election, we need to still keep this conversation going on. As a politician, you never stop explaining and campaigning for your party. After the election, we start again campaigning for the next election. Or you just come, if you're in government also, you just come and explain the policies to us. And getting close to the end of our discussion, I'd like you to tell us, why do you think, in it's very short, why do you think the Republic have to vote for your party? And you personally, you have to tell us very short, in 1 minute.
Okay, me personally, I think the whole list we have is great. So you can vote for me, number 36, but also just vote for anyone else. Our number 1 is awesome. And why I think you need to vote for the SP is because we are people of the we are a party of the people. We stand with people always, even in the past decades of neoliberalism, of economic policy that was bad for people, all the cutbacks, we have fought against them, while other parties said, okay, they're necessary. And that is, and right now, other parties say, okay, we need to invest, we need to do good things. But that's what they always say before elections. And we are the party that has always been on the side of the people. So if you want bang for your buck, if you want your vote to count, then I think the SP is the perfect party for that, because you know what you're getting. We always say what we think and do what we say. So vote SP.
It's good. It's good to have you here, Sebastiaan, and Tifo. That is it. We have got Mr. Sebastiaan from the Hout, and he has explained a lot to us. So if you haven't decided yet, think about SP. Think about SP. You have today. Still, it's almost it's 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. You still can vote tomorrow and Wednesday. You can still go and vote. So please, the point is, go out there and vote. Don't let your car stay at home. Kofi, what do you say?
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you for coming. And actually, I think you have really explained yourself well. And as you said, especially on the education and the money that the students have to pay, the loan that the government will take care of that. Actually, something that is very, I would say, it's encouraging. It's encouraging and about the standard of living of poor people and the way your party, your policies, I think, is something that I hope that definitely I wish your party will come to power, because these are things like, especially where I was happy about the minimum wage. You know, majority of, especially the migrants here, live on minimum wage. So if it still have been pegged at, I think, 10 euro or something, and they are going to maybe increase it to 14 euro, at least it will help a lot of people, because we, in spite of everything, we have a lot of responsibility. So, like if we come here, aside of paying our bills, so it's like, oh, we are always in a distress, let me put it that way. So I think it's something that it's quite attractive. I just hope that your party will come and they will fulfill that promise. It won't be something like you promise on radio and when you get a chance. But I was happy to hear from you that this tax fraud, especially for the Kinderhofer, the big tax fraud. I heard you say that your party was part of it. Oh, it's so great. It's so great. And so one thing, the compensation, they have given about 750 euros to each other. I think those who were affected. But I heard there's a compensation package from 30,000 upwards. How true is that? Is it true, or maybe it was just a promise?
Well, that's a complicated story. We were actually very angry about that. So they did promise 30,000 euros, but it was kind of a marketing stunt. Because, so they are going to get the 30,000, but because they announced it on television, like all the debt collectors and even the tax office itself came after these families to get that money, which they haven't received yet. So they were back in all the stress, like the stress they had been in for like 10 years, that was all the way back. And also we say it's unfair because people now think, okay, they shouldn't complain anymore. You know, they got 30,000 euros, leave it alone. But these people, they have been pursued by the government for sometimes up to 10 years. You know, marriages have been broken up, families have had to leave their homes. And oftentimes the cost is even way larger than that. So we say you need to compensate them fairly for all the money they have lost because of this, and not just get away with some small part of it because it looks good.
Okay, so definitely that 30,000 will come, because I heard them saying before 1st May. I don't know.
I hope it after the election, the new government will decide that.
Yeah, so definitely I'm hoping their government to, because it seems their policies are very attractive to me so far. I've listened to a lot of policies from other parties, about 37 parties. It seems SPA's policies are very attractive, especially for the migrant. Yeah. So thank you for coming. I wish you well.
Thank you.
I'm just going to sum it up in our local dialect for those who are watching to actually maybe they understand it, but I just want to break it down so they would understand it proper.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Gambrah. you
Yeah,
have
so, I'd like to also thank Sebastiaan for coming, and then I think we're going to leave you, Kofi, to continue. So I wish you all the best. 2 days, don't give up, push until the last second.
Thank you
I
very much.
understand your party leader, Mrs.
Marijse, yeah.
Marijse, she says going to campaign until the last second.
Yeah.
Wednesday night, I think 5 minutes to 9, that's going to stop campaigning. That's very fine. I wish you all the best, and then we keep in touch.
Yes, we keep in touch.
Okay. All right. Listeners, I don't know if that's 70 year. SP Sebastiaan from the Hout. And I didn't come more. And your friend said, I don't know if that's a church and one baby, especially. And I'm all kind of America say interview parties now, but only a more kind of say very attractive. And said they're all kind of Namia our list in so. And Yasha Battle on you don't forget it. Yasha see and then Yasha see and then it's now up to Wednesday in the climax. Now, your point on 9. In Timoko, you might grab about 9, you can still vote. You can still vote. It's a mamu refi. Namonko to a ban. You are for the Bedamasi, and not the Messia. Bye.